Hi, good evening, traders. This is Krishna Joshi here with 7 Points Capital. Gonna bring you today's trader takeaways. Pretty volatile day as far as range and spice is concerned. Uh, we gapped down just a little bit, went green right away, and we're pretty much heading nowhere uh, for like the first half, and then we sort of made a new high on the day by just a little bit, and again we were headed nowhere up until when I think the Wall Street Journal story came out saying that U.S.-China relations might be the trade war might be coming to an end, and we got a nice push, almost like 2.5 points on SPYs, which is like a good 1%, and about a 1% move or so in Qs as well. And then the CNBC came out with a story saying they haven't really discussed anything. Not sure if a lot of this is true. We'll have to wait and watch, and we saw some of it kind of pull back. But even the sentiment that things are improving, things might be worked upon, I think that's a pretty good sign. And a lot of these Chinese names, Baba, Baidu, they saw like a nice momentum push. Also, some of these semiconductors, they do a lot of business in the Asian countries. So it was positive news for the semiconductor index, Baba, Baidu, and a few other Chinese names. So this was my watch list on the day. These are the ones that I want to cover in the video. These are the other ones that I was watching. So it's a good mixed bag of low floats and large caps that I've been watching, and I've been able to add a lot of these low float setups. Been working with the Florida desk, been working with Stan and some of the new guys. We've been sitting down, drilling down on some of the filings, looking at things which is much more important, not just the filings. We look at uh, the volume, consolidation, the volume profile, a lot of other things going on, uh, and eventually we'll coming out with strategies that suit us given our risk management. And more or less, not a great fantastic day, but a small winning day, which is good. The idea being getting consistent, and that's, I guess, the theme that we focused on. We want to make sure that you get back into consistency, get back green, and hitting those singles instead of focusing on the home runs. So let's jump into. So this was Spies. Let's jump into Snapchat, which was day two on this one. It was down, short seller restricted yesterday. So right after we closed at pretty much the dead bottom of the day yesterday, we saw like a buyer after hours who kept pushing it up. And today again, pre-market, we saw like a nice buying coming in. So up until this point, these were all long setups. Ended up shorting 75s, covered some, and then went long here. Wanted to see if it wants to break. Didn't go, and ended up covering my longs. Reshorted everything and got a nice little fade off here. The tricky part in Snap today was these wicks that came out of nowhere. So that was the tough part to be in. These wicks kind of shook me out of my short setups, which was right around here. So I was short here, shook me out, slipped a little bit, and right around here at 74, I started going long, and ended up taking like a small hit because of the long position build up that I had. But once again, once we saw the rejection, started shorting it, got a nice little fill, ended up covering 66s. So I tried to load my executions, but with the too many executions, Sterling just crashes. I don't know if there's a fix for that, but every time I put it on, Sterling just crashes for me. So I can't really pull up any more executions, but a lot of fills on, like, covered in the 66s, 67, had some orders out on the aggregators, and then once again we got a nice little short entry, covered some, and then pretty much left it alone because this was, if you remember, like on Spies, the US-China trade news came out right up in the afternoon, and wasn't really looking at a whole lot of short setups. So right around after 2:30. So one last time look at Snap after 2:30, just long setup, not really doing anything substantial. So let's move on to the other one, which was PCG. This was a monster in after hours yesterday. Like, it finished at the day highs, broke out of this 645 to 685 channel, and then just absolutely took off in the after hours. Look at that, $8. And not just that, we went sideways, sort of a pullback compared to the entire run, and then we started rallying again in pre-market to 850. What I failed to do was I wasn't really shorting these wicks. Instead, what I was doing was I was getting stuck short in the middle of the range, so it would wick out, shake me out, not really give me confidence on my short setups, and it would eventually go down, make new lows on the day. But all of these pullbacks, so after a nice little fade off, I would start shorting in the 725s, get shaken out of my short, um, really shaking my confidence, not really letting me stay in the positions, and then it would fade, make new lows on the day. So it kept doing that for a bit, and wasn't really my best symbol. Ended up pretty much flat in PCG. Um, got a nice little sell in the afternoon, which was around the 685 area. So we saw like a nice rejection in the 85, comes back to 78, 79. Got a nice little fade off, and couple of small winners over here, but nothing substantial in that one. So I'm gonna jump on to three low floats that I want to cover for you guys. One of them is BIOC. Let me show the 30-minute on this one. So the stock's been going up since 75 cents. We haven't seen any dilution happen yet. And showing the 5-minute, look at the moves. They have been massive. A stock rallying from $1 goes up to three bucks, pulls back. Then we have, this is day 3. So day 1, day 2 was down SSR. It's reg show, so you can't really have a lot of borrow on it. And then day 3 rallies again, and day 4 up move again. So not really sure if this is setting up on the short side yet, but let me show you the intraday on this one. I had a couple of setups on this. I ended up shorting, I remember 74, 75, which was right around here. It goes down, drops, and comes right back up. So it goes down to 65, 66, which is nothing substantial, just into wicks into VWAP, comes back up. I take out a break-even trade, ended up going long a little bit, and got out in the 88s and 90s on BIOC. So that was one trade on the long side. So I had a scratch trade, one long trade that worked for me, and ended up shorting in the 85s and covered 66 on that one. So this was this one good nice crack that I ended up covering on this one. And we didn't really have more shares to short because BIOC was a reg show. We had to keep refreshing the borrows, and in the end that is all we had. So ended up getting out of my shorts, and guess what, just makes a new low by just a little bit, so lower low, and then just makes day highs. So BIOC is still nasty, but I still feel like it's tradable. If you look at like a big picture view where you're looking at the VWAP, you're not just really trading every bar. So BIOC is definitely going to be on my watch list for tomorrow as well. LMFA, not really a biotech. You would expect a biotech to really gap up that big, but it's financial services. They acquired like another small company. They gapped up pretty big. They've done that in the past as well. And the float is really small on this one. I think 1.9 million. There you go. You've seen these wicks happen before. And so this started rallying actually pre-market, and in the pre-market we saw like nice push off right at 9 o'clock. We saw this 2-level hold, and then we just rallied pretty much to 270. I'm gonna zoom into most of my trades in this one were till up around 11:30, 12 o'clock. So I'm only gonna zoom into this one. I had a nice little short. So these were 85s that were holding. So I ended up shorting like the 77s with the stop above this one. I didn't want to give it all the way up till here because I know that if this starts squeezing, then it's really going to make new highs, and then once it catches that bid, it's going to be tough to get out of it. So once I saw like a sideways consolidation, a range formation, ended up shorting with a stop at 87, got stopped out on this one, comes right back down, and then I'm looking at it as a long setup. So I ended up buying, making higher bases on this one. So I ended up buying, I think 72, 73, 74s, build up a position around here, and it makes a new high up to 310. So we ended up making a new high. Couldn't really cover anything because at this point I'm really feeling okay about this, because this is exactly how it shook me out of my short position right around here. So I started liking the long trade. Didn't really take off. In fact, I was going to look at any re-entries if I could, but we never really got a chance to get in, uh, add anything, because the pattern just fell apart. So the stock just broke. We didn't really see anything substantial, no real bounces. So I ended up taking like a small winner, about 5-7 cents on this one, covering the 80s, 82s. And then we're looking at, just left it alone for a little bit, ended up shorting right around the VWAP, which was in the 60s, and got a couple of nice fades on this one. But there was one area that I got really chopped up on. I ended up going long in this area, looking at the 225 base. Goes up, comes back, I'm adding a little bit, and then I get stopped out for that. Um, so LMFA, not a huge winner, could have been something really big, but nonetheless, a good stock overall on the desk for us as well. The final stock I want to cover, LPCN, and with LPCN, the phase one news, a lot of things going on Twitter saying that the data isn't really acceptable. Like a lot of information that they posted in the PR was a bit too early, a bit too uh, like not necessary. They haven't really shown all the facts. So this was something that I was looking out as a potential short. We actually saw like a nice push, already topped out around 730. All of these wicks were just getting sold off, and we ended up shorting this one really nice. Got a nice little cover right off the morning. Um, Drops to 210, 215. So got a nice cover in the big first drop. Starts pushing into that 240 area again. So this was 245s holding and 235s holding. So this is where I ended up getting short with a stop above 37 and 47. And this ended up not working out a whole lot. So what I did was actually I did switch my bias on the long side on this one, right around the 24s, 25s. So I ended up taking like a small winner because I covered in the 27s, and then ended up going long and took into the 45 area, which was also a huge offer, so that was easier for me to take it. So I ended up taking 42s, 43s on this one. Squeezes just a little bit, but guess what? It just kept fading all day. So even though my thesis on the stock was short bias, I want to stay. This is something that can fade all day, but we have seen these kind of squeezes come in a lot of these times, and guess what? It didn't really work out for me because it shook me out of the short position. I ended up making a little bit on the long side, but the entire easy trade for the day was missed. So that is all for me from today, guys. 5 stocks. Let me know if you have any other questions. These were some of the other symbols that I traded on the day. Alcoa, KMI, Morgan Stanley, CSX earnings, and a few other former runners. So thanks again for watching, guys. Krishna Joshi with 7 Points Capital.